Hello, this is Nicola Morgan and I'm the author of Mondays Are Read and a whole load of other books for teenagers and young people. And I'm here to answer the questions put to me by St Laurence's School, Bradford-on-Avon, and their teachers are Mr Chadwick, Mr Matcham and Mrs White. So hello to all of you and thank you very much for asking these questions and thank you for your interest in Mondays Are Read, but most particularly thank you very much and congratulations for the amazing bits of creative writing that you've done based on Mondays Are Read and pupils, boys in the years before you as well. It's quite amazing for me as a writer to read that stuff, those amazing words, incredibly creative words inspired by Mondays Are Read. And just for the benefit of anyone watching this who isn't from the school, the point about this is that some of the creative writing work from the boys of St Laurence's School has gone into the back of the brand new ebook edition of Mondays Are Read. And so the boys have asked me some questions about the book and that's what I'm here to answer now. I've had to cut some of them out because YouTube only allows this video to be a certain length, so I've had to cut some of them out. So the first question was, will you ever make a sequel to Mondays Are Read? And no, I don't think so. I don't have any other ideas of what might happen to Luke. And to be honest, what happened to him with the synesthesia and the very, very nasty creature in his head, Dreeg, is not something that could happen to him again. And probably nothing else as exciting as that will ever happen to him in his life. So if there was a sequel to Mondays Are Read, I don't think it would be so interesting. So no, I'm not going to do it. But if you've got some ideas for what a sequel could have in it, then you're welcome to have a go at writing it yourself. Then your next question was, where did you get the idea of Dreeg from? And I find those questions, where do you get the idea from, really difficult because often I don't know. And I don't know in this case. All I know is that it came from somewhere in the bottom of my dark and deep and often quite nasty imagination. What gave you the idea to make your main character have synesthesia? Well, that's a little bit easier to think about for me because I remember wanting to think of a condition, something in the brain that you could acquire after having a coma and something that would make the way you saw the world be different, something that would change Luke hugely from how he was before he had his illness. And I thought of synesthesia because I knew about synesthesia already, and this links to your next question, which is, do I know anyone who's got synesthesia? And yes, I know quite a few people who've got synesthesia, and you probably do as well, because there are probably some people in your class who have got synesthesia, but not as strongly as Luke has it, because when I put it in Mondays Are Read, I really exaggerate it. Nobody has it as strongly and strangely as he does, but lots of people have it in a much, much more mild way, where two senses are crossed over. So when you hear a sound, you see a colour, for example. Lots of people have got that. It's not unusual particularly at all. It's not weird. It's just a different and rather exciting way of seeing the world. And I know several people, including one person very close to me, who has that. So that idea came to me quite quickly, and it immediately was obvious that it was going to work really well for doing something where I could mess around with language, which was what I wanted to do. Then you said, this was a really interesting question, has Dreeg gone to another mind? Luke cut him out with a scalpel in Mondays Are Read, but did you see him attaching himself to someone else? I didn't, no. I didn't think of that. That's a very exciting idea. Maybe if there was ever going to be a sequel for Mondays Are Read, then that's what would have to happen, that Dreeg would go into somebody else's head. But I hadn't thought that he would do that. I imagined him not exactly dying, because Dreeg isn't alive, so I just imagined him disappearing, fizzing out and not existing anymore. How do you think up some of your weirder, more imaginative descriptions? With my weird imagination. But don't tell me I've got a weird imagination, because your imagination, judging by the creative writing that you did based on Mondays Are Read, your imagination is easily as weird and dark and deep and interesting and fascinating as my imagination. What's with the dream with the mountain? Dream on the mountain. That's based on a story in the Bible in the New Testament when the devil tempts Jesus and he takes him up to a mountain and he tempts him with, in particular, power. limitless power. And really that's what the whole of Mondays Are Red is about. It's about how power and the temptation of limitless power can corrupt you if you let it. So that's what that was about. How did you feel when you knew your book was going to be published? Well, because Mondays Are Red, and it was my first book, was published after 21 years of failing to be published, as you can imagine, I felt pretty excited about it. But it doesn't, that sort of thing doesn't happen in a kind of sudden phone call out of the blue. It happened gradually. There were various signs that it was probably going to get published and I was probably going to get an agent. So by the time it actually did happen, it probably wasn't as exciting as you might think, because I was prepared for it. But the thing that is exciting is when you get the first brand new shiny copies of your book. And that's when they arrive, and they arrive at your house a few weeks before it goes into the bookshops. And that's a very exciting moment, really exciting. And it's still exciting when I see my book in bookshops, any of my books. And I've had a lot of books published since then. Then you said, did you feel close to Luke in the book? And that was an interesting question. I didn't, actually. As a writer, you usually do feel really close to the characters that you're writing about. But for some reason, I never did feel close to Luke. He's not got any similarities with me, I don't think, in any way, really. Personality and likes and dislikes and skills, I don't think Luke is at all like me. And so I probably found it quite hard to feel close to him. I don't even know if I particularly like him. I don't dislike him, but I don't know if I particularly like him. But he was just the character that came into my head, and so it was his story, and I had to write about him as well as I possibly could. You said, was it challenging trying to write from the perspective of someone with synesthesia? Actually, no, it wasn't. That was the easy bit. That was why I was really glad that I had chosen synesthesia, because for some reason, even though I don't have synesthesia, I found it that was the easiest thing. I was able to mess around with language. I was able to use my imagination as much as I could, and I was able to do a whole load of exaggerated description, which I quite like doing anyway. And this gave me an excuse to do exaggerated description. And also, and I haven't really got time to explain about this, but when I do a school talk about Mondays Are Red, I show the audience. Firstly, I show you how many of you have actually got synesthesia, and then I show you how almost all of us, even though we don't have synesthesia, can use synesthesia and can think like a synesthete. That's somebody with synesthesia. And that's quite a fascinating thing to do, but as I say, I don't have time in this video to explain about that, but it would explain why it's not difficult, once you train your brain in a little bit, to think like someone with synesthesia. You asked, why is Luke's imaginary girl deaf? Because she just turned out to be. I didn't plan it that way, and that's sometimes, well, usually for me, what happens when I'm writing a story is that I haven't actually planned most of it in advance. I apologise to the English teachers for saying that, because I know that we're meant to plan things in advance, but one of the things about being a professional writer is you have much more time to work things out, and so I tend not to need to plan in advance. I like to plan in stages, plan as I go. Anyway, when Serafina, Luke's imaginary girl, or is she imaginary, appeared, she just seemed to me that she was deaf, and I thought that was quite interesting. So I went with it. If I didn't think it was going to work, I would have changed it, but I thought that was a very interesting aspect of her. Where do you write your books? I write my books here. Here I am in my study. You can see my study. You can see some of my, I can't point in the right direction, it's like looking in a mirror. You can see some of my books behind me. I've got some of my books here. I've got Blame My Brain and The Highwayman's Books, Highwayman's Footsteps, and Death Watch, and my latest book, Wasted. So I'm in here with all my books and lots of other things, and flowers on the windowsill. You can see it's a funny shaped room, so it's got a long bit there with lots of books on it, and then I've got the blind shut because it's sunny outside at the moment. There's my garden out there. So this is where I work. I do all my writing at a desk at a computer. I don't do any writing by hand, or hardly ever. I don't like my handwriting very much, and I also like to change things a lot, and the best way to do that is by using a computer, so I can change things as often as I want, which is often. How many books have you written? About 90. But most of them are thin. I haven't got one to show you actually. Most of them are thin books, like Thomas the Tank Engine books for much younger children. But the ones that I like best are my books, for my novels and books for teenagers, older children and teenagers. So most of my the books that I like best, the books that I spend most time doing, the books probably that I'm best known for are for teenagers, but about 90 altogether. And I think 9 or 10 for teenagers, and 9 or 10 novels for teenagers, and some non-fiction about the brain, the teenage brain, and your brain, and how your brains work and how they're different from each other. And you said, is Mondays Are Red related to any parts of your life? Well, not really, but it's set. The woods where everything happens, or almost everything happens, are where I used to live. They are woods that I strongly remember from my childhood in Yorkshire. I had a childhood of huge freedom. I was born in a school, and in the holidays we lived in the school, and I had all of the facilities of the school. With I had one younger sister, and I used to just do stuff on my own the whole time. I used to ride. I had a pony, and I used to ride in those woods on my own, and I remember them very, very well. So I thought I would use them. I don't think I say anywhere in the book that that's where they are, but that is where they are. They're about 8 miles from York. So, and my grandfather, he lived with us as well. So, and my grandfather is the grandpa in Mondays Are Red, and I have a dog who is also in Mondays Are Red. The dog is called Amber. She's in Mondays Are Red. She's a real dog. But apart from that, no, it's not based on anything in my life, and my books tend not to be based on anything in my life, because, to be honest, nothing really very interesting happens in my life, which is why I like to make very exciting things happen in my books. Now I'm looking at the time and I'm realising that we're going to have to stop now, otherwise I won't be able to upload this properly to YouTube. But can I just say again, boys of St Laurence School, Bradford-on-Avon, thank you very much for your fantastic questions. Thank you for being interested in Mondays Are Red. I know I nearly managed to come and visit you last year, and I hope that might happen one day. But meanwhile, carry on reading, and if you like writing, carry on writing, because if you can get to be published, then it's great fun. Great life, very, very rewarding. Hard work, but very, very rewarding, especially when I get to do something like this. So thank you very much, and goodbye.